first time I heard that phrase, that things happen for you, was I was a engineering student living with 5 swimmers at a place that we affectionately called The Dump. And I got home late on one night, and there was an infomercial on with Anthony Robbins. And he said that, and something else that caught my attention from him was, what if instead of focusing on your failures, or if your actions lead to failures, you focused on if your actions led to success? What great advice. It's amazing how a simple statement can change your outlook. So I went to bed, and that was my personal development for years and years. And I took his advice to heart, but not exactly how I think he meant it. I just, whatever happens, happens, man. I'm going to play everything by ear. It doesn't really matter. And that's how I've pretty much approached my life for a long time. When I graduated with environmental engineering, I had no desire to go into the oil and gas industry. But I was talking to a friend of mine, Mark McDougall, and he said, Steve, if the oil and gas industry is as bad as you think it is, you have 2 options. You could either quit or you could make it better. So I spent 15 years in the oil and gas industry, traveling all across the States, spent some time over in Russia, traveled across Canada, and it was during those travels, meeting that, to go visit that same friend, Mark McDougall, that I met this beautiful woman from Pine Tree, Pictou County, with blue eyes and a smile from ear to ear that made me smile ear to ear. And we danced the night away to Jimmy Rankin at Nashville North. I was Twitter-fated. Her not so much. We went on our first date 2 years after that first encounter, and we went on our second date 3 years after that first date. But we eventually settled down. I got married, and on May 1st, 2012, we had our first baby boy, Rowan Alan Joseph MacLellan. Now, thank you, yeah. Being married and being a father, I started taking my career a little more seriously, and I was gaining a reputation as an environmentalist who was actually able to save our companies quite a bit of money. And that reputation got me a job offer here in Halifax. Now, this is a job offer I would have jumped on at any other time. We did a little humming and hawing. We said, okay, well, let's see what happens. So we packed up everything we owned and got on the airplane, never guessing what was going to happen 8 months down the road. Now, that little boy seemed to have some intuition what was going on, because he had a perfect record. He'd been home several times, perfect record for a well-behaved kid, 8 for 8. But on the 9th time, that record was shattered. It was almost like a scene from The Exorcist. Rowan's back was arched. He was screaming the whole time, and I swear he was climbing the ceiling and the roof of that airplane. We actually touched down in Ottawa. We were allowed to get out, and he would have ran back to Calgary if he could have. But we eventually made it back to Halifax. We stayed at the old hotel. Stephanie's father picked up Rowan. Emerson, who was 1 month old at the time, and Stephanie, they went back to Pictou County, and I went to our office for a security debrief. Now, there was a protest a couple of months ago that made the news, and we were given the inside scoop on what went on. The protest made the news, but what didn't make the news was the fact that there was weapons involved, guns and explosives, and death threats. I truly underestimated the emotion that was involved with natural gas here on the East Coast. And I wasn't a fit at the company. That nice guy, go with the flow attitude that treated me so well didn't serve me well out here, because everybody else was already so nice and going with the flow. In fact, I became quite direct, kind of cocky, right? I lost that ability of reading between the lines or beating around the bush that we do a lot around here sometimes. And I started getting quite angry. You know, I bit my lip on a lot of things. I was starting to get quite negative. I underestimated the cost of living. You know, the deed transfer tax, the HST, and on my second paycheck, I finally went to the accountant. I said, I think you made a mistake here. There's too much coming off my check. And she said, if you want to live in the best place on the planet, it's going to cost you. I wanted to scream at her. I said, do you notice I'm wearing 4 layers of clothes to stay warm in this office? And if you look outside, there's vacancy signs everywhere. There's people walking around in their pajamas and jogging pants everywhere. But I bit my lip. And I became quite negative, I have to say, and very stressed. And I realized I committed career suicide. And the final nail on that coffin was the ban on natural gas exploration that happened in August. Not sure what we were going to do. I decided to join a cult. Now, at the time, that was a great decision because it got me into the financial world. It reintroduced me back to Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and personal development and the power of positive thinking. And a lot of the training I received, this was to leave no family left behind, was to go out there and help anybody and everybody. And the training was generally from Alberta and in Ontario. And I think you'd agree, a lot of times the things that work out west don't always apply here on the East Coast. But I was going to prove everybody wrong. I put my head down and I worked. I worked during the day, I worked at night, I worked on the weekends. My goal was to work as hard as I could until December, and then we're going to have a big party. Somehow I convinced my wife to have a big party. We invited a lot of people at our cottage. And do you know what's worse than not having anyone showing up to your party? It's having about 2 people show up, right? It was very awkward, and after that awkward night, my wife and I had a discussion, and she said, do you think people didn't show up because they were scared that you were going to try to recruit them or get them on as a client? It's amazing how a simple statement can change your outlook. And we talked a lot over the holidays, had quite a bit of drinks too, and we made the decision that I was going to take over maternity leave. Yes, somehow over that time during the chaos, we ended up having another child. And again, it was one of the best things that happened. I got to bond with my daughter. I got to reconnect with my wife. And I got to think. I got to think a lot. And during that time, being a stay-at-home parent, I really thought of 3 things. I thought, being a stay-at-home parent is way more work than anything I've ever done. So hats off to all stay-at-home mom and dads and single parents. And then the second thing I got to think about is, who am I? Who do I want to be known for? And who do I want to have as friends, acquaintances? Who do I want to spend more time with? And that's one of the reasons I've been lucky enough to get up to this stage. I've really shifted on do-gooders and people that are giving back to the community. And during this time, I reached out to old friends just for pure friendship and to apologize to some of them. And through that time, I met with Emily Chesson, and she helped me focus on why Halifax and Nova Scotia is so cool, the unique things about it, where before I was always focusing on the things that it was missing, but what makes us great. And then I was having coffee with another friend, and his wife was an owner of a financial brokerage. And we hit it off. We had the same vision on what we thought a financial advisor should be. So I changed firms. I had access to excellent products, services, expertise, a company with a great reputation, ready to hit that go button. And have you ever seen those videos where the person walks right into the screen door, right? And they don't know what happened? Like, what just happened? That was me. I was like, why can't I move forward? Why can't I move? What's going on? I feel paralyzed. And with a little bit of savings I had left, I ended up getting the coach. And even though I've been doing a lot of personal development, I realized my mindset was at an all-time low. Over the last 5 years, how foolish was I to do the things that I've done? Am I being foolish now? Did I ever provide any value? He got me working on my mindset, just doing small little things each day, getting some exercise, being active in the morning, having a strong morning routine. And I realized, yes, I do provide tremendous value to professionals, especially those that want to focus on the important things, those that want to give back to the community, focus on their families, and focus on their health. You're seeing the transition right now. I'm the momentum. I'm very excited about 2019. And I think you can sense it in the whole city of Halifax. There's a lot of cool things going on. In conclusion, I've learned over these 5 years that things just don't happen for you. They happen because of you. And I needed to I couldn't just float and go with the flow. You can with some things, but when it comes to family and your career, you really got to pick your battles. You got to fight for it and make things happen. Thank you very much.